Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in today. In today's episode, I'm going to be showing you how to make remote function calls to an SAP ERP system. And in order to do that, we do need, this is with Java, we're going to make our remote function call using a Java external program. And what RFC allows us to do is call function modules. So these are your standard function modules you see in SE37. You can define your own. I'll show you an example of one we're going to be using. Is function module, and I'll have to search for it. I believe this one's probably good. SRTG underscore test underscore echo. You can see the code. It literally just takes whatever you pass as the importing parameter and passes it out. So it does just, this is specifically for testing service definitions, for testing remote function calls. And in order to execute a remote function call, the function module has to be of processing type remote enabled module. So we need to write a function module like this if we're going to execute it remotely. Now you also need a user, preferably a service user rather than a dialog user, that has authorizations to run this particular function module and whatever else that the function module calls. So we need to make sure we have that. Now, how do we connect to an SAP system from Java? So SAP provides this SAP JCo. This is the Java connector for SAP. You can download it from the SAP service portal. You will need an S user ID or at least to have been given authorization in order to download software. So we'll go ahead and open it up and extract the zip that's inside of it first. Just wanted to show you guys kind of what it's got going on. I'll skip the boring bits because I've already fiddled around with this before. So we'll go ahead and extract this to my desktop. So in the folder, you'll see there's a jar file and a DLL file. If you're running on Windows, you need that. So you have these text files in here, the README and the licenses. You should read both of those. So installation, uncompress, then load the Java doc intro.html into your browser and follow the description. So I'll save you most of this. I'll show you a little bit here, but you can say intro, and it'll actually show us the Java doc. Well, this isn't the Java doc necessarily. This is the installation instructions. It'll go through and tell you how to install it on a Windows system, all the caveat, on a Linux system, AIX, all these different operating systems for servers. And wow, even on Mac OS apparently. But it'll go through all that stuff, configuration, API documentation, which is the actual Java doc. Some examples, which we're going to be using one of these examples in our program. So let's get started. We'll open up our Java IDE and create a brand new project. So I paused the video to save you guys from having to watch that. I just created a brand new project in IntelliJ IDE, which is my preferred Java IDE. You can use Eclipse, you can do this from the command line if you want to. I don't really care which way you do it, but I'm going to show you how to do it in IntelliJ IDE because, as I said, that's just the one I'm most familiar with. So we've got our JCo, our library on our desktop. Ideally, we could probably put this somewhere else where we're saving most of our external Java libraries, but you guys already know this. So we're going to open up the project structure. And again, that's over here in File, Project Structure, or Control-Alt-Shift-S. I'm using Oracle JDK 1.8. That's Java 8. There's, I think, Java 16's out now, so this is just what I had on this computer. Don't kill me for using something outdated. So now we're going to go into our JCo folder. We're going to pick our jar file. We're going to click OK. And then we're going to add it to our selected module, which is our project. Click Apply. OK. Now, at this point, we're able to write our code. So I'm going to go back to the documentation for in the JCo folder. I'm going to do beginner client examples. I will just say Can't remember which one I wanted to use. Well, let's do that one. I like that one. So this is just some simple code that we can use to connect to an SAP system. So I'm just going to copy all of this code and paste it into my project here. Oh, what is this? Destination concept. Ah, okay. So this just gets a string here. So we'll just say the name of our SAP system. Let's call it ABAP AS, and then what I typically like to do is just name it the same thing as the server. So VHC AL NPL CI, or let's do NPL. It's the actual system ID. Now this throws an exception, so we'll just add that to the main method signature. Ideally, you'd want to, handle this exception with a try catch statement and try and recover from it if possible. So what this sample code is going to do, I hate this spacing. There we go. It's going to get our JCo destination, which is essentially like a connection object. If you've worked with JDBC or SQL or something like that in Java, you'll get a connection object. This is essentially the same thing. It's a destination object, and that's how you're going to reach your SAP destination or your server. It's going to ping the destination, then it's going to print the attributes of the destination. So in order to do this, we need to, and I'll go ahead and comment this code. So what the Java connector library is going to do is it's going to look in the working directory, which in Java is user.dir. It's a system property. You can get that and print it out. And it's going to look for a connection configuration file in that directory. If we print it out, we can see my directory that I'm working in right here. So it's this project root directory. So we'll go ahead and just comment that, or get rid of that, and uncomment our sample code. So what we need to do is we need to create a configuration for our SAP system. So what we're going to do is open up our JCo, go in here to examples, and if we look here, we have these JCo destination examples. We can go ahead and just copy one of those, paste it in our project root directory, and what we want to do is we want to give it this name here, whatever this string is. And this string isn't important, it's just how we name our file so that the Java connector knows how to find our system configuration file. So we'll go ahead and I will fill out some of these things. Most of this down here you don't need to worry about any of that, but you do need to fill out each of these. So we need our application server host name. So in my case, I'm using a trial SAP system. It's just going to be VHC AL NPL CI. It's client 001. I was hoping it showed the, let's see here. Let's go to system status. It should show me all this system number and client in there. So we're in client 001. Well, actually, I can get it from the logon. So go into our SAP logon, click properties. So our instance number, which is our system number here, is 00. Client is 001. Our user, and again, guys, these are just this is just a trial system, so I don't mind sharing my username and password here. Don't do that in a productive system or some system that you're worried about other people getting access to. So system 00, client 001, developer, and download. So now that that's saved, and by the way, the first time you run the Java connector in any program, it's going to take this password here and it's going to encrypt it so that nobody else can open up this JCo destination file and look at this password. It's going to be encrypted, so we don't have to worry too much about it once we run it the first time, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when I do that. So now we'll try and see if this is successful. ABAP AS NPL, and make sure in our call to get destination we have ABAP AS NPL, or again whatever you want to call that destination. It can be anything so long as the destination configuration file here matches. So we're going to just go ahead and run this. Oh, we got an RFC failure. VHCAL NPL CI not found. So this is probably just something to do with my network settings here. You probably won't get this if you're on a, a company network or whatever, but I need to use, let's try the application server. See, and that's our password encrypted right there, so we don't have to worry about that being stored out there in plain text. So I'll just change the host here to the actual local IP address. That should take care of things for the trial system. Again, you probably won't get that issue going on there. But we can see down here we are successfully connected. There's our attributes, our destination, on host. That's just the host name of the server that I've got over there to my side running that. IP address, and just some basic attributes about the SAP system. So now I'll give you one more example while we're in here, and I've stole this straight out of the examples folder from the Java connector. We'll do client, beginner, and then we'll just say call, a simple call. Oops. Oh, have Java. There we go. So this is a simple call to a function module. What this will do is it'll get a function module. It'll get the import parameters list and set a value on it. Try and execute it for that destination. If there's any ABAP exception, this gets thrown if there's an error in the ABAP code, not necessarily on the Java side, but if a short dump or something like that gets generated, then the remote function call will throw an ABAP exception. JCo exception is kind of like the parent of that. ABAP exception inherits from JCo exception, so that's kind of just a generic exception you'll see for this this library that allows us to connect RFC. So what this will do is it'll get the it'll execute an actual function module in SAP, pass it an importing parameter text, and then it will actually get the export parameters from the function after it's run and get the string that it returns. So you can do this with importing parameters, exporting parameters, table parameters. You can even return an internal table and then handle it, and go ahead, just import what we need here and clean up some stuff that I don't like to see. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over back to our SAP system, go to transaction SE37. We're going to do our test echo function module, which again, as we saw before, it is a remote enabled module, so we're able to do this where we let's replace this string. I think that's what I called my configuration file. Let me double check. Yes. So, another thing about this library, it will write out, logs. So if there's a problem connecting RFC or anything like that, it'll write out a log file. And same, project root directory, working directory. So we've changed this to ABAP AS NPL. This is a different function module I'm using. So I'll just say get function srtg underscore test underscore echo. We'll check our importing parameters. Our importing parameters name is in. We'll set the value to hello SAP. That's fine. Execute our function. That's not the name of it, so we'll change. We'll just get rid of that. So we'll say echo. Well, we don't have both of these, but we have one exporting parameter called out. So what I like to do, I'll just say string out equals function.getExportParametersList.getString, call it out. and then get rid of that. I'll say out dot, well, hold on. There used to be a way, there we go, that's out v, where it'll just print the name of the actual variable and its value. So up here we pass hello SAP. So when this function module runs, it's going to import parameter in, which is hello SAP. SAP is going to process the ABAP source code, which is setting out to in. And then it's going to export out, which we get down here from the function's parameters list. And then it prints the value of out. So we'll go ahead and run this now. And what we should expect to see is out equals, and then hello SAP. So let's try it now. So our Java programming is compiling. It does take a second for it to run because it's a remote function call, and we see right here in the output of our Java program, out equals hello SAP. So again, guys, the main points you want to look at here are make sure you've got this JCo library installed under project structure, libraries, and IntelliJ, and that will vary depending on your Java IDE. Again, you can do it from the command line, from Eclipse, NetBeans, any IDE of your choice. They'll all work just fine. Then our other thing to note is that in our JCo library we do have examples. There are a ton of examples in there. So we got server, which is where a Java program can listen for events that happen in ABAP. Essentially, beginner and advanced in there. Client, where we're acting as a client here, so we're calling a function module from ABAP. There's advanced, multi-threading, message server, just all kind of stuff in here that you can take a look at and really get your feet wet with RFC calls. You can call using table, which is really cool. It allows you to retrieve an internal table contents. Right, so this gets the company code from ABAP, company code get list, which should be in your SAP system. I think it was in mine earlier when I checked. And it'll get all the company codes for that SAP system and print them out to the screen essentially. So that's pretty cool. You can actually get a table, as an exporting parameter, or excuse me, a table parameter, I believe it is here. Well, no, this is a structure. It's going to be an export parameter, but you can get table parameters and iterate tables, and it's just the possibilities are pretty well endless with RFC. So what I really think RFC is useful mostly for is if there's something that's just easily accomplished in another language, or you're making some kind of client for SAP that provides some kind of functionality that ABAP itself can't handle. I think it's great for that. I've seen applications in machine learning where people will have a program that'll run on the desktop as a client. It'll use data from SAP and modify data in SAP, but it'll maybe run as a Python program where it's got access to all these wonderful machine learning libraries and AI and things of that nature. Or maybe just a Windows client that does something and it calls SAP in order to use SAP, but maybe it's just easier to write it in a different language, C#, whatever. There's connectors for different languages. I just showed you the Java connector. They call it JCo. And, there's really a lot you can do with this. It's not necessarily something you're going to see just your average ABAP developer doing mostly. It's mostly going to be, just from what I've seen, is going to be companies that want to write some sort of client software that interfaces with SAP. And it could be, some huge software project. But, say for example, you have some kind of other server that needs to see SAP data, right? So say we have a whole nother program that interfaces with SAP, so we can actually use a Java API to connect to SAP, and we don't have to query SAP tables. We can go through the application server using ABAP code. So that's pretty neat, and this is all based on function modules, guys. So get out there, write yourself a function module, explore some of the ones that are already there, test this out. Let me know if you have any issues, you run into any problems, and leave a comment. My email's somewhere in the video or either on the channel. So if you get stuck, let me know. If I didn't explain something well enough, please let me know. And if there's enough interest, I'll do a follow-up video on this and show you a little bit more complicated RFC calls in Java, or your language of choice. Just let me know. And thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next video.